Good afternoon. The government will set out tomorrow more details of a temporary visa scheme to make it easier for foreign lorry drivers to work in the UK. It comes after a frustrating day for some motorists, with queues and congestion around some petrol stations, following a disruption to fuel deliveries because of a shortage of hauliers. The visa scheme could bring in around 5,000 drivers, but the haulage industry says it needs 100,000. Here's Katie Austin.
People have been told not to panic buy. There's no shortage of fuel itself, but again today motorists were queuing at petrol stations. In some areas there's been traffic chaos as a result.
Petrol is on zero, I'm not going to make it. People have half a tank and they're going in there to fill up.
3 hours, it's ridiculous. I mean, you pass these two petrol stations, you go up the road and it's the same again.
I'm on red and I need to get petrol ASAP.
EG Group, which operates 400 sites, has set a £30 per customer limit. The initial problems experienced by BP were due to not having enough lorry drivers, a wider pre-existing issue that's worsened during the pandemic and following Brexit. For months, the government resisted calls from freight and retail groups to introduce temporary visas for foreign drivers, but it is now expected to announce a scheme tomorrow. With 5,000 visas available, there'll also be a raft of longer-term measures. Haulage firms welcome anything that might ease the pressure, but say there's no silver bullet.
I do think this will be helpful, and I hope it will be helpful. 5,000 doesn't seem a lot when you're talking of deficits of 90,000 drivers short, but hopefully that will be reflected on forecourts and in shelves and sort of help relieve the burden a bit.
With this visa, do you think there are thousands of foreign drivers who will now want to come and work in the UK?
I'd like to hope that they do. What you've got to realise is that all European countries have actually got a driver shortage.
Other sectors have also found it hard to find enough workers. The business group, the CBI, said a more proactive approach was needed so the economy's recovery wasn't stifled.
We've got labour shortages, not just in HGV drivers, but across the economy. We've got supply chain problems, we've got energy problems. And I think what we need is the government to grip these things with us in business and get ahead of them rather than behind them.
The question now is how many drivers from overseas will apply for a visa and how quickly. Businesses just want things to improve before the crucial Christmas period.
And Katie is here with me. Katie, how soon can we expect to see any difference from this visa scheme?
Well, there's still some detail that's yet to be confirmed about that visa scheme, such as when it will start. I understand it's likely to last 3 months, which is shorter than some business groups had wanted. The underlying issues behind the shortage of drivers, which the Road Haulage Association has said could be as much as 100,000, will take a lot longer to address. They'll take some time to address because there's a cocktail of factors that have added up to the decline of the domestic workforce, and many in the industry actually will accept that more could have been done earlier to try and make it a more attractive career. So for now, a temporary visa scheme is something really of a short-term bridge, particularly to try and help in the run-up to Christmas.
Katie, thank you. Katie Austin there. The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has had to row back on some of his plans to change the voting rules for future leadership elections. But the remaining proposals are still likely to spark a confrontation with the left. The party is in Brighton for its annual conference, where the focus was also on new rights for workers. From Brighton, our political correspondent Ian Watson reports, and I should warn you, it contains some flashing images.
It wasn't an ideal start to his party conference. Keir Starmer wanted to attack the Conservatives.
This government is letting people down so badly.
But under attack from some in his own party, he was forced to ditch plans to reduce the role of the rank and file in future leadership elections. And further rows could overshadow more positive policies aimed at the wider public. The focus was supposed to be on workers' rights, not his members' rights. The deputy leader gave a crowd-pleasing speech, including a promise to ban zero-hours contracts.
Some things are not negotiable. So Labour in power will give all workers rights from day one in their jobs: sick pay, holiday pay, parental leave and protection against unfair dismissal.
But most of the action took place not on the conference floor, but behind closed doors. Keir Starmer's just come out of a crunch meeting where he's had to discuss his party reforms. He's had to junk some of his ideas, but a significant number will still go ahead to the conference tomorrow, and that's sure to infuriate his party's left wing. Under Keir Starmer's plans, in any future leadership contest, candidates would need the backing of 20% of Labour MPs rather than 10% now. This might sound very procedural, but it's also highly political. If the rules had been in place during the last leadership election, there would have been only one candidate. And in the previous contest, Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't have got on the ballot. That's why the party's left will vote against the plans tomorrow.
Get organising in every single way that we possibly can. Let's reject all of these rules, stay strong, every single Labour member. Solidarity, thank you.
First impressions matter. If he wins a battle with his own party, Keir Starmer could look decisive. But the risk is that in the process, he'll also highlight his party's divisions. Ian Watson, BBC News, Brighton.
The government's latest coronavirus figures for the UK show that there were 31,348 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, with another 122 deaths reported. That's of people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID test. On vaccinations, 89.6% of people aged 16 or over have had their first jab, while 82.2% are now fully vaccinated. In Germany, it's the final day of campaigning ahead of the country's general election tomorrow. Angela Merkel is stepping aside as Chancellor after 16 years in power, and her CDU party is facing a tight race against the Social Democrats. Well, our correspondent Jenny Hill is in Berlin for us. And Jenny, a new leader soon, but it's also the end of an era.
Yes, Germany is on the threshold of a new political era. But, you know, tonight, the race to succeed Angela Merkel is simply too close to call. Her Conservatives, the CDU party, is just behind the Social Democrat Party in the polls. But that gap has been narrowing. And actually, one poll suggests there's a single percentage point between them. Angela Merkel herself had vowed to stay out of the election campaign. But the very idea that Social Democrat Olaf Scholz could snatch victory from her party's candidate, Armin Laschet, has forced a bit of a rethink, and she's been out again today at the side of that party's candidate for the CDU's final rally. The Green Party look on course to come in third, but they are likely to still possibly end up as part of a government. That's because whoever comes out on top tomorrow will have to form a coalition. It's not going to be easy. There are a lot of combinations possible. It could be weeks, if not months, before this country gets a new government and Angela Merkel steps aside for a new German Chancellor.
Jenny, thank you. Jenny Hill. Europe are facing an uphill task to keep in touch with the United States at golf's 43rd Ryder Cup. The Americans are looking to build on their 6-2 overnight lead at the Whistling Straits course. Our sports correspondent Andy Swiss reports now from Wisconsin.
Sunrise at Whistling Straits and the now familiar dawn chorus. After a dazzling day one, American confidence was once again in the air. And with good reason, it seemed, as in the early matches, the US surged ahead.
Look at this, look at this.
Dustin Johnson showing the way, while Europe once again was struggling. Jon Rahm is the world #1, but you wouldn't have guessed it from this.
Just the same as yesterday.
But at last, some hope. A stroke of genius from Sergio Garcia.
Oh, it's magnificent from Garcia.
If that was good, though, just watch this. Paul Casey conjuring the shot of the day. But Europe know they need a few more magic moments if they're to keep their Ryder Cup hopes alive.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Well, I can tell you that Sergio Garcia and Jon Rahm have just won their match, but Europe are still trailing in the other 3 matches. So the score currently 6-3 to the US. Europe still need some comeback, Reeta.
That's it. We're back with the late news at 10:15. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Bye-bye.